Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second episode of Sideline Report. Thank you so much for tuning in. And before we get started, I will knock the elephant out of the room. Yes, this is the first episode of me on camera. I know the first episode might not have been the most entertaining to watch, just staring at the boring Sideline Report logo for the entirety of that an hour. I think it was an hour and 7 minutes. So I apologize for that, but I'm trying. This is not going to be the most fancy of podcasts. I am recording off my iPad. It is not the best of quality. Please forgive me. But yeah, this is the first episode of me on camera, and I plan it to do the rest of my podcasts on camera. So I hope this is something that you enjoy, and I hope that this makes the podcast a little more engaging and a little more fun to watch. So with that being said, with that elephant in the room now cleared up, let's get started into this podcast. Now, this podcast will be strictly talking about my NBA Game 1 of the playoffs overreactions. Now, we're going to start off in the Eastern Conference, and in the East specifically, I think there were a lot of interesting games, top to bottom. The one game that I will not be talking about just because I feel like the first game, and I think that the entirety of the series will go as expected, and that is the Celtics-Sixers series. I just think that the Celtics are a powerhouse now with Tatum back. We saw him drop, 24, 11, and 7. Jaylen Brown dropped 20 plus. I forgot his exact stat line. But, that team just looks deadly. That team looks dangerous. They're starting to get back into their groove. They're starting to mesh. They're starting to get that chemistry back. And I think the Sixers missing Embiid, even with Embiid, I think they're outmatched, but missing Embiid especially, I expect every game in this series. If Embiid does not come back, and if he is out for every game of the series, I expect every game to go the same. I expect the Celtics to win by 20 plus every single game just because of how good the Celtics are. And that's no discredit to the Sixers team. I think the Sixers are very fun to watch. We saw that in the Magic game in the play-in. But I just think that the Sixers are outmatched, and it's just going to be a slaughter every game of the series, in my opinion. So that game I will not be covering in this video, or this episode, I should say, simply because I believe that it went exactly how I expected it to go, and there's not much to cover. So with that being said, the first game I will be covering in the Eastern Conference out of the game ones in the playoffs is the Pistons and Magic game. Now, this game, in my opinion, was the most entertaining to watch out of all of these Eastern Conference games, and that is simply because these are two teams that have a similar brand of basketball. They're both physical, but I think that, especially in this game, Orlando displayed their physicality, and I think their physicality is what eventually won them this game. And I think that they came out hot out of the gate, right? They scored, I think they were up, 24-10, I think at some point in the first quarter. Like, they were moving. Jalen Suggs was hitting some shots. Paolo was being aggressive, getting to the rim, hitting some mid-range shots. I think that, and then obviously as the game progressed, Franz started to get going. Wendell Carter started to produce. I feel like Wendell Carter is an unsung hero of this Magic team. I feel like in the play-in and in game one, I feel like he has produced, and I think he has really showed that he can be a starting center and a productive starting center for this Magic team. Now, with that being said, I don't think he will be a deciding factor in getting them past the Magic. I don't think getting them past the Pistons. I'm sorry about that. I don't think he will be a deciding factor in getting them past the Pistons because I still would take the Pistons in the series, regardless of the result of game one. I do think, though, his productivity will be huge in making these games competitive and giving the Magic some of these games and eventually winning them some of these games. But yeah, top to bottom on this Magic team, I feel like everyone produced. I feel like defensively, they were all physical. They really, besides Cade, Cade's going to get to his shots, but no one else on this Pistons team really produced. Besides Tobias Harris, 17 points, the next leading scorer had 9, right? Like, that's just that productivity, and that leads me to my next point. My first point was that Orlando physicality. My second point is how much the Pistons truly depend on Cade, and how I think that they are going to live. The way this team is structured, they've won games without Cade in the regular season when he went down with that collapsed lung. They showed that they could win without him. But when it comes down to these critical playoff games where every game matters, like, the Pistons are going to live and die by Cade Cunningham. And Sure, Cade dropped 38 points this game, right? He produced. He's going to do Cade things. He was an MVP candidate for most of the year, right? Like, this is Cade Cunningham. We know who he is. He's a superstar. But Jalen Duren, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Like, I'm outing Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren's a phenomenal player. I love Jalen Duren. But, like, Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris, he produced this game. I feel like Tobias Harris has been a dependable scorer for the Pistons in the playoffs in the past. But, like, players got to step up for this team. There's got to be scorers that they can depend on. I'm sorry, but, like, I love Dennis Jenkins. He has a really cool story. He produced this year. He really broke through this year. But, like, you can't depend on him to be your spark plug off the bench. I'm sorry. Or even a starter in some instances, because they've tried running some lineups with Dennis Jenkins next to Cade Cunningham in the backcourt. But, like, you need a scorer, and Jalen Duren can be that scorer. He's proven to be that scorer. When Cade Cunningham is out, I think he went on a stretch where he's averaging, like, 25-plus points per game or something like that, like a double-double like he's been doing all season. Like, if he can do that in the playoffs and be that kind of producer, and if Asar Thompson, now we know Asar Thompson's a spotty offensive player. We know that. We're not going to expect a lot from him offensively in these games. But if he can produce something offensively and this Pistons team can produce scoring outside of Cade Cunningham, they're going to be a dangerous team. Just because defensively we know what they're going to bring. It's Detroit brand of basketball. It's that physicality, like I mentioned multiple times. Like, they're going to be that defensive team, and that is, like, insured. You know that's going to be there. That's guaranteed every single game. But it's just that offensive side. You need scores besides Cade Cunningham. If he can produce, if Cade Cunningham can do Cade Cunningham things along with the supporting cast, filling their role, doing their job, and also providing that scoring, I think that this Pistons team can go on a run. They're a 1 seed for a reason. They've won games in the regular season. It just has to translate to playoff basketball. And I think it's been proven in the past. The playoffs are different than the regular season. Fans, I've seen it online. People have concerns about this Pistons team and how credible they are going into the playoffs. And I understand. Like, it's games like these. It's games against physical teams that play a similar brand of basketball to you that you have to cement yourself, and you really have to cover those holes and really find a solution to those holes and find ways to win these games. And if the Pistons can't do it again at home, I honestly don't know how the series is looking going back to Orlando. Or not back to Orlando. I shouldn't say that. They haven't played in Orlando yet. This is game 1. But going to Orlando, I don't know how the Pistons should feel or would feel going down 0-2 2 games in Detroit. That's all I'm saying. Now, that's all I have for the Pistons and Magic game. Now, moving on, we have the Knicks and Hawks game. Now, the Knicks and Hawks game was fairly interesting to me just because I wanted to see what the Hawks would look like. Like, we knew what they would look like. We knew what they looked like without Trae Young. We've seen that since the trade deadline, or like a little bit before, whenever Trae Young got traded. We've seen them play without Trae Young, and they've been a successful team. It's just, again, the playoffs are different. Who's going to step up? We know Jalen Johnson's their star now. They handed him the keys. Can he produce in the playoffs? Can he lead them to wins? Now, in this game 1, like, I don't want to say that the Hawks look bad, because they didn't. They didn't. But I think that there were glaring issues with this Hawks team, and I think there are glaring reasons why this team will not win this series, and, like, with the roster as constructed, will not succeed. And I think that's just simply playoff experience. You look at this team, Jalen Johnson hasn't gotten any playoff run, like real playoff run. CJ McCollum was the last time he played meaningful playoff basketball, right? Like, it's been a while since any of these players, like Jonathan Kuminga last year, barely played for the Warriors in the postseason. Like, this team has nobody that, besides Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who, yes, he's played meaningful basketball. He's been to the Western Conference Finals with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, he hasn't been a lead guy, like, in the role he's in Atlanta on a playoff team. And none of these players have. No one on this team has real playoff experience. And I think that is their biggest weakness in this series. Like, you look at the Knicks on the other side, like, last year they're in the conference finals with almost the same roster. Like, this team is a winning team. They've won in the regular season. They've proven to be successful in the postseason. And, like, I think that leads me directly into my second point, where, like, the Knicks have so much potential in this postseason. And going into the year, I thought they were going to be the number one team in the East with the Celtics missing Tatum and with the East being as open as it was. Like, I looked at the Knicks as that team, like, okay, I expect you to be at the top of the conference. I expect the Cavs to be at the top of the conference. Like, those were the two teams I expected to be atop the conference. Now, obviously, it didn't play out exactly that way, but the Knicks are still atop the conference, right? They're still a 3 seed. And this team, like, in the regular season, I feel like a lot of fans of the NBA kind of looked over the Knicks just because the Celtics were such a shock. The Pistons were such a shock with how dominant they were early on. And there were so many other trends in the NBA, or like I shouldn't say trends, topics in the NBA that fans were interested in, that the Knicks kind of became forgotten about. And they were an extremely productive team in the regular season, right? Like, right here, I have written down they were the fifth team in opponents points per game in with 110, and then they were number 10 in offensive points per game with 116. Like, they were all around a great team, and like, they maintained that throughout the year. Like, I feel like there were teams that went, like, kind of fluctuated throughout the standings. Like, the Pistons kind of stayed at that number one, but they did show some holes later on as Cade went down and as they dealt with some problems during the middle of the regular season. But, like, the Knicks, I feel like out of every team in the East, were the most consistent in their production and how they fared against teams and how they played on a night-to-night basis. And I think that, like, that is such an advantage. And if you look at this Knicks team, they haven't, like, they didn't make any moves throughout the regular season. Like, this is pretty much the exact same team that they went into training camp with before the season. Like, this team has meshed. This team has learned how to play together, and that is so crucial, and that is the advantage they have over other teams in the East that don't have that chemistry together, that don't have that postseason chemistry together. Like, they have that over every other team in the East. They have that combination, and I think that is going to be crucial towards their playoff success. And I think that showed in this game. I think that, like, defensively, they were moving as a unit. I think that if Josh Hart can be that player, that same player he was last postseason, right? Getting on the boards, he got a double-double, 11 points, 14 rebounds this game, right? Like, if he can be that productive, OG Anunoby, if he can be that third scorer with 18, like, Mikal Bridges has shown some inconsistencies, but you don't necessarily need to rely on him on the offensive end if you have everyone else producing like they did in this game. Like, I think that the Knicks and their depth got so much better from last season. Like, Jordan Clarkson is a crucial addition off the bench. Like, Miles McBride is starting to catch his rhythm. I'm not saying he's the same player he was before injury, because I do think that his production has significantly decreased since before the injury, but I do think that depth-wise, I do think that experience-wise, I do think that, like, chemistry-wise, the Knicks have so much going for them this postseason that the Hawks, I think, are just outmatched. Now, the Hawks are a great team, don't get me wrong, but it's that experience factor. It's that, like, depth. Like, you can't rely on Mo Gay and Gabe Vincent. Like, Gabe Vincent has been a playoff hero for the Lakers in the past, but, like, and I shouldn't say the Lakers. It wasn't with the Lakers. It was with the Heat. But he's not that same player. Jonathan Kuminga didn't produce this game. You expect more out of him. Like, you need Zachary Richauche has been extremely disappointing this season. Like, their depth is so much worse than the Knicks. Their experience is so much less than the Knicks. They're just outmanned. They're outmatched. Similarly to the Celtics-Sixers series, except I do think that this series will be more competitive once the games go to Atlanta. I do think that will play a huge factor in this series. But I do think the Knicks will end up coming on top in 5 or 6 games, give or take. But I do think that the Knicks, moving forward in the playoffs, have a lot of potential to make some serious noise. Now, moving on to the last game in the Eastern Conference, I have the Cavs-Raptors. And now, Game 1 of this series was, I think, one of the least talked about out of all of the other games in this playoffs, just because, like, I feel like similarly to the Celtics-Sixers series, like Celtics-Sixers Game 1, I'm sorry, I apologize. like this game kind of went as expected. Like it was close, but going into it, the Raptors were missing quickly. Like that's going to be huge. We knew in Cleveland, like the Cavs were rolling. They were starting to mesh with Harden now. Like the Raptors just had little chance to win this game, and it was unfortunate, but like it's just the truth. So this game did go as expected in that aspect, but I will say that the Raptors do look like a very complete basketball team. Like right now, I mean, they're losing by 13 with a minute 48 left. I have the game playing in the background, but the Raptors in game one, I will say specifically, like they looked like a complete team, and all they really need to get a game against Cleveland in the series, get multiple games even in this series, is they need Brandon Ingram to be an assertive scorer. They need him to be aggressive. Like 9 shots. I mean, he got to the line 10 times, granted, like it made all 10. Like that's extremely productive. You like that. He's getting to the rim. But like I just think that you need him to take more shots. You need him to be that lead scorer that he can be. That's the best version of Brandon Ingram is when the ball is in his hands, when his one job is to score the basketball. And I think that like you don't need him to be the lead distributor in this like series. You have Scotty Barnes, right? You don't need him to be on the boards all the time. You have Jakob Poeltl, you have Scotty Barnes as well. Like you don't need him to be that catch and shoot guy. You got guys like RJ Barrett. Sorry about that. You got guys like Grady Dick and I'm blanking. I gotta look at his name. I'm a horrible podcast host. Jacoby Walter. Like you have guys like that can fill those roles. Just be the best player that you are, and that is the scorer that is Brandon Ingram. And I think that like if they can do that, and then if Quickly does come back in the series, I think his status is still unknown for the remainder of the series. But like if you can get Quickly back into this lineup and have him be another distributor alongside Scotty Barnes, so all Brandon Ingram has to do is score the basketball, like this Raptors team can get games on this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Like this Cleveland Cavaliers team is not a perfect team. Their depth was spotty. I mean, Max Strus had a huge game, 24 points off the bench. Like that is huge. He has looked great since he's come back, by the way. Like I just think that this Cleveland team is not a perfect basketball team, and if the Raptors can play the best brand of basketball that they can play, which they did show they can play in the regular season, like they can get games on this Cleveland team. Ultimately, I will say that I do think Cleveland will win this series still, but I do think that this series can very well go to 6 or 7 games. All right, stop. No pun intended, 6 or 7 games. I think that this series can go to 6 or 7 games, and that this Raptors team can make this a competitive series. Ultimately, like I said at the beginning, this game did go as expected. I do think that there is not much to take away other than the Raptors do look like they can be competitive in this series, and Donovan Mitchell and James Harden are starting to look scary. And combining for 54 points in the opening game of the playoffs is a warning to the rest of the NBA that if your guards or whoever's guarding Donovan Mitchell and James Harden are not prepared defensively or not on the top of the game, at the top of their game, Cleveland will expose them, and specifically their backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and James Harden will expose them. Like James Harden has fit in seamlessly into this Cleveland Cavaliers team since he's gotten traded here. And as that lead distributor, he's really making everyone else on this team better. We saw that with Jared Allen during Black History Month. Black History Month, Jared Allen, right? He's iconic, right? Evan Mobley's really benefited from James Harden. He had 17 in this game, right? Like, Donovan Mitchell has benefited, right? He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands all the time. I'm not saying he did it with Darius Garland, but like James Harden is that player and that pulverizing of a ball handler and that guy who can take pressure off of you in those situations and can handle those playoff situations, those high pressure situations, who is a veteran who has been there. And that like them together, like James Harden's not going to be the best defender, but Donovan Mitchell has proven to be an above average defender. And like defensively, I don't think you have to worry too much about this backcourt. I think they can hold their own. And offensively, they're extremely dangerous, like they proved in this game against, I'm pretty sure they were a top 5 defense in the regular season. Like this like this Cleveland backcourt and this Cleveland team can be dangerous. It's just those inconsistencies that I think those inconsistencies and the depth concerns will make this a competitive series. Now, that will be the conclusion of my Eastern Conference segment of the podcast. When we come back, we will be discussing game ones in the Western Conference side of the playoffs. To cap off the second episode of Site to Sideline Report, we will be talking about the Western Conference game ones of the first round of the playoffs, starting off with the Lakers and Rockets game. Now, this game was very interesting to me, and not for the reason that many would think. Obviously, KD was not playing, so it was not for the reason of LeBron versus KD. And the Lakers are missing Luka and AR and LeBron, so it's not really for that star power. It was really to see how both teams would play without their star players, right? Like how the Lakers would function in a playoff setting without AR and without Luka, with LeBron as the lead guy at 41 years old, right? Like I feel like that was a very interesting topic of conversation going into this game. And then on the Rockets side of the picture, right? Like KD's out was I think his injury was announced, or he was announced to be out for game one, like the day of game one, right? So it was kind of like a sorry. It was kind of abrupt for Rockets fans, right? They were kind of caught off guard. But the Rockets made the playoffs. They were a 2 seed last year without Kevin Durant. So going into this game, I had the Rockets as the favorite. Now, the Lakers did come out on top in this game. But if I'm a Rockets fan, like, I still feel pretty good. We didn't, like, I shouldn't say we, I'm not a Rockets fan. You guys didn't shoot the best in this game, right? Like, Reed Shepard shot 6 for 20. Like, that's not too efficient, right? Like, Amen Thompson shot 7 for 18. Alperen Şengün shot 6 for 19, right? Like, your lead scorers didn't play the best this game. And you still only lost by 9 points. Like, it was 107-98 was the final score. Like, you didn't play good, and you only lost by 9 points. Like, in LA, I would feel pretty good after this game, knowing that there's a high likelihood that Luka may not come back in this series, and that he may be out for the duration of this round. Now, on the Lakers side, what I will credit the Lakers on in this game, specifically LeBron James, I do feel like as the engine of this team, this game, I do think LeBron did an excellent job. I do think he got all of his teammates involved, like LeBron has always been known to do. But he was also aggressive in some instances, right? You saw him get to the rim. You saw him get up there on some plays, right? You saw him stretch it out beyond the arc, right? Like, LeBron played great this game, and he played like he played last year, the year before, like in the seasons where we were defying father time, right? Or he was defying father time, or we were questioning father time. And he played like that this game, and I think that was fundamental to the Lakers winning. And now Luke Kennard was obviously fundamental, and that leads me to my kind of sub point on the Lakers in this game, is that the Lakers, I feel like, have a trend of always having a playoff unsung hero, right? Like a couple seasons ago, it was Lonnie Walker, right? In that series against the Grizzlies, it was Austin Reeves. That was his kind of breakthrough series, right? Like, I feel like, and now in this game, Luke Kennard, like, I feel like they always have that spark plug off the bench that makes their name, like, known through a breakout performance in a playoff game, right? Like, I feel like that's been a prominent thing and a common thing for the Lakers in their recent playoffs. And I think that, like, obviously that's not sustainable. I don't think Luke Kennard will be producing like that for the duration of this series. I think the Rockets are a better defensive team than they showed in this game. And I think that now that they have this Lakers team figured out, or not figured out, they obviously don't have them figured out, they lost. But now that they've played against this Lakers team without Luka and AR, and they know who they're going to be looking for, and they know, like, Luke Kennard, I don't, like, all respect to Luke Kennard, he had a great game, and I think he made some great plays, and he had some smooth buckets. But he's not that hard of a guy to create a scouting report for, right? Like, I just don't think he's that guy that I don't think he's that guy that like Ime Udoka is going to be staying up all night like stressing over. Like he's a catch and shoot guy who can come off screens, who can hit shots in the mid range, but like he's a predominantly catch and shoot player, and I think that once they have that figured out and the focus and or like the priority and the responsibility is solely on LeBron's shoulders, I think that the Lakers will really be tested in this series. And without Luka and without AR, if they are not healthy at some point in the series, I'm saying one of them, like this Lakers team is in serious trouble, and I just don't think they can get past this Rockets team, given the fact that KD's injury is not as serious as AR's and Luka's, right? Like KD will most likely be back in the next game, which I think is tomorrow night. Like the Rockets are in a much better condition than the Lakers, and like this game, although excuse me, although the Lakers won this game, I do think that the Rockets are feeling good after this game, knowing that they didn't perform up to their capabilities and knowing that performances like these will, I think, in the playoffs with a guy like Kevin Durant will not be a consistent thing. And I think that the Lakers need to figure out a way to, sorry about that, to efficiently, like, they played great defense this game, don't get me wrong, but, like, I think given the fact that the Rockets shot so poorly, I think they got lucky in a lot of instances. And I think that, like, if they can't figure out a way to be like an efficient offense while being an efficient defense when KD's back in that Rockets lineup, like the Lakers are going to be in trouble, and I do think that the Rockets will come out on top. Expecting. Sorry for the pause. I was finding the word. Expecting that Luka or AR will not be coming back in the series. I do think that the Rockets will come through. I do think it will be competitive. I do think that the Lakers could win next game, if not the game when they go back to LA in Game 5. I do think that they can win another game, but I do think that the Rockets will win in 6 games. I will say the Rockets will win in 6 games in this series after watching Game 1. Now, to finish off the second episode of Sideline Report and the Western Conference segment of this podcast, we will be talking about the Denver Nuggets and Timberwolves game. Now, this is my series of the first round. This is the series that I was looking forward to most going into the playoffs. And I think a big reason for that is because of the history these two teams have with each other. And when they match up in the postseason, you know it's going to be a great basketball game, or you know it's going to be a great series of basketball games. Like Anthony Edwards' performances alone make these games entertaining. His tenacity and his drive and his like devotion to beating the Nuggets and making that known publicly has made this such an interesting game. And then on the Nuggets side, you have a guy like Nikola Jokic, who's quite literally the best player in the NBA and who is slowly inching his way up into those top 20, top 15, maybe even players of all time conversations. Like this series is so interesting in so many aspects. One, because both of these teams are extremely talented and proves that in the regular season, but also because like of the history and because of the individual talent on this team and how those storylines match up against each other. And in terms of this game, like I will say, like it was competitive for most of the game. I do think that this game did go a lot how I expected it to in terms of the score. I don't think that any team really like cemented themselves out in front. I think that the Timberwolves had a very strong first quarter. I thought that the Timberwolves were going to maybe run away with it in the first quarter with how it was going, with how fast they were moving the ball, with their pace, with how well they were shooting it too, right? 33 points in that first quarter. That's an efficient first quarter, holding the Nuggets to 23. Like that was an impressive first quarter, and they had an impressive start. But the Nuggets just ramped it up in the second quarter, and I just think that they maintained that efficiency from the second quarter on. And I think that from then on, like I wouldn't say that the Nuggets ran away with it because it was a close game throughout the rest of the game, but like I just think the Nuggets I just believed that the Nuggets were going to win for the rest of the game. Like the Nuggets just looked like that complete of a team and that composed of a team when the Timberwolves, I can't really say were. Like, they did get rattled in some instances, like that Jaden McDaniels scuffle, or I shouldn't say scuffle, it wasn't really reciprocated, but that Jaden McDaniels altercation with Nikola Jokic where he shoved Nikola Jokic from the back. Like, the Nuggets, or not the Nuggets, the Timberwolves were getting rattled, and I think that the Nuggets' experience and their talent, obviously led by the best engine in basketball, maybe even in basketball history, in Nikola Jokic, with the supporting cast like Jamal Murray, who dropped 30 points this game and who has been that elite secondary player throughout the entirety of the regular season, right? And like Aaron Gordon looked great this year, right? Not this year too. Don't get me wrong, but I think he looked great this game. And I think that he is always that guy, too, that you can count on in playoff games to show up. Like that Clippers series last year, we had that game winning, I think it was a lob, if I'm not mistaken, or a putback. I don't know. I don't know. I might have to check. Um, but I do think that the Nuggets have that. And even Cam Johnson hit some timely shots in this game. And like Tim Hardaway off the bench is a key veteran that I think will make his impact known in the series as the series progresses. But like the Nuggets on the defensive side of the floor and offensively, I think that they are such a complete squad, and the Timberwolves are too. Don't get me wrong. I think the series will go to 7 games. That's what I have it going to. That's what I had it going in. That's what I had it going to when the brackets were confirmed, and that's what I have it going to after watching Game 1. I think that this series, my expectations are the same. I do think that Denver did have the momentum in this game, and I think that they did prove that they were the better team in this game. And I do think Denver will win the series in 7 games, but I do think that the Timberwolves will find their rhythm. I do think Anthony Edwards, 22 points this game, I don't think he will stay at that. I do think he will have those legendary playoff performances like he's had in the past. And I do think that this series will, as time goes on, become more interesting, become more competitive. Even after this game, which was competitive, which was intense in some moments, which was scrappy in some moments, like I do think that this series has the potential to live up to the expectations and live up to the level that the other playoff matchups they've had in the past were at. So, yeah, that is the conclusion of my Western segment of the podcast, and therefore that is the conclusion of the entire second episode of Sideline Report. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. This is a much shorter episode. I realize that an hour long is probably too long for the modern attention span, and I figured that it would be better for you guys and better for me in terms of my schedule and what I have going on right now, right? I'm still in high school, right? I'm still a student. Um, I just think it would be better overall if I made these episodes shorter. And that way I could also produce more episodes and get you guys more content on a weekly basis. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment on what you want me to talk about in the next episode, or just what you thought on what you thought about my opinions on the topics I covered in this episode. Thank you guys so much again, and God bless. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.